History over coffee, the next episode. I guess we got to talk about the 90s now. 90s for me were, I guess you would call it a turbulent time in my personal life, that is. But I'm going to try to just focus on the music that I was into at the time. And, you know, a lot of people talk about 80s music being some of the greatest era. But I also still to this day believe that there's some great 90s music back then. So here we go. So in 1990, left an assignment in Texas and drove up to Ohio with family and left them there. And then I went to Germany, and I'll tell you why. Is because back then housing was so scarce and it was so hard to get an apartment in Frankfurt, Germany, that the Air Force wanted you to travel over there and secure an apartment or a house first, and then you could bring your family over. So that's what I ended up doing. So I never forget, I had to drive the car to be shipped out to Granite City, Illinois, and I had to have that shipped out. From there, it would be sent over to Germany. And then, you know, I took a taxi across the river to St. Louis Airport, spent the night, and then the next day I had to get on the plane to fly to Frankfurt. And back then, you had to travel, military members had to travel in their service dress uniform. So I was wearing my blues, and I get out of the cab, and the cab driver's like, "Man, why are you so nervous?" I want to tell him, shut the hell up. But I was like, I'm just ready to go. I'm just ready to get this next chapter of my life in. And I was actually nervous because I'd never been overseas stationed there before. I'd traveled just to Guam and Diego Garcia, but I'd never really been to Europe. So it was an exciting experience for me. So, you know, on the plane ride, I'm listening to my favorite music of the day, which was Megadeth, So Far, So Good, So What, and Metallica, Master of Puppets, and Injustice for All. And, you know, I was listening to DRI, you know, I was listening to that kind of stuff on my headphones, on my Walkman, mind you. It was back in 1990. So I get to the Frankfurt airport, blurry-eyed, and a guy named arrived Frankfurt Airport, and a guy by the name of Bill Meyer picked me up, and he was my sponsor, and I had been in contact with him previously to that. And so he was a good dude, really good dude. Of course, got me into the base and all that. And later on, you know, he showed me around Frankfurt, showed me how to ride the German trains, took me around to all these places to help me look for an apartment. And it was really a big help for me back then, just the nicest guy. So I finally did get an apartment. It wasn't, I guess, an optimum situation getting that apartment, because it was they advertised it as a 2-bedroom. It was in the basement of the landlord's house. And they advertised it as a 2-bedroom, but the other bedroom was you had to go out the front door across the hall, and that was the 2nd bedroom. Well, you know, we had a 2-3-year-old daughter at the time. I think she's maybe, almost 4. And we weren't going to do that. So she had to sleep in the same room as us. And so we hunkered down there until we were able to get base housing. So I had just got there, just started getting into the job. I had an apartment, but I still did not have a car yet. But thankfully, I was shown how to use the German train system. And so I had to walk, you know, a few blocks down to the train station from my apartment, get on the German train. And of course, you couldn't wear a uniform. You had to be inconspicuous, and nothing shows you're American or anything. So I had to put my uniform, my Air Force uniform, in my backpack and wear civilian clothes and hop on the train. Well, the closest that the train got was the Frankfurt airport. Now, Frankfurt and the base I was at, Rhein-Main, shared a runway. But of course, to get to the base, you had to go all the way to the other side of the runway. So once I got to the airport, I had to get on a bus. And then from that bus, I had to go just to the main gate. And from the main gate to my job, it wasn't too far of a walk, I guess about a 15-minute walk. And if I was lucky, you know, somebody that I worked with or something like that would pick me up or meet them there or something. So I was doing that. I was getting into a routine of doing that until, you know, before my car got there, because they tell you right away, be prepared. Your car's not going to be there for 6 weeks. So before you can even drive a car or rent a car over there, you have to get a license. So you had to go to, you know, it's on base, you had to go get your license and you had to go do the testing. And a lot of the German road signs, the European road signs are very different than the ones in America. So you had to study up on that kind of stuff before you could even just take a test on it. So I'd do that and got my license and everything was going good, but I still didn't have my car. So then this kind of taught me about being a good supervisor and getting to know your people. Well, I don't know if the bosses just didn't know this or they didn't care or what, but they put me on night shift. They're like, you're staff sergeant now, we need a supervisor on nights. And I'm like, okay, what doesn't run at night? Trains, buses, you know, they didn't happen in Germany. A lot of stuff shuts down after dark in Germany and on base too. So they put me on a swing shift, which was probably like 3 to 11 or something like that. And so I was okay getting to the base, but getting home, I would always have to, you know, beg somebody or give somebody gas money to give me a ride home, which was, you know, another 15, 20-minute ride, you know, off base. And it was tough being the supervisor because people are like, my boss just got on my ass about something and now I got to give him a ride home. So sometimes that would be awkward. But I had a great guy who I still keep in contact with now, is Wes Slaughter. And he did, you know, sometime reluctantly maybe, but he was a nice enough guy that he would give me a ride because I didn't have a car yet, man. And it was, and you go back to my place, and what did I have there? I had no TV, I had nothing. I just had my Walkman to listen to. And it was kind of strange, at least the first couple of months. But then the wife and daughter come over and then trying to get them settled in and get a place and everything. But my wife at the time, of course, didn't have a German driver's license, couldn't drive. So by the time we got our car, I still had to work night shift and do errands and stuff like that. So during the day, during my sleeping time. So it was kind of rough. It was kind of rough. And she asked me, "Do you still skate?" And I was like, not really, you know. And so she's like, "Well, this guy in another squadron or on base anyway, named Blaine, he's a skater." And I was like, "Blaine, isn't that from a movie or something?" But so I meet Blaine. He takes me out to the Tropica. He probably thought, "Oh, this guy's just some poser. He doesn't know how to skate." So, but then I did, and we became good friends from then on out. And we went to a place called Tropica. It was really a roller rink they had, but they also had like a restaurant there and stuff like that. And then on the other wall from where the roller rink was, they had ramps. They had skate ramps. They had like a little street area, street skating. And I could tell Blaine was so popular there. This guy, everybody loved him, giving him hugs, shaking his hand every time he walked in. You know, had a lot of German friends there. And I knew that was his hangout. So I'd go with Blaine and we'd go like Friday nights or, whatever, Saturdays, when we weren't working. And we'd go out to Tropica and we had to get on the Autobahn and most of the time he'd pick me up or meet at his house or whatever. And this is all a lot of times before my wife and kid even got there. And we'd go out to Tropica and sometimes he'd bring his, at the time, girlfriend, which later became his wife. And she worked with me. She worked in my shop, Julie. And so then when my wife got there, then, we all hung out together and stuff and went places and found, Blaine and I tried to make it like, let's make it like a family trip. We'd go to Cologne, Germany and tour around, but then we'd also, he said, oh yeah, but there's a skate park, and so we'd go hit it and stuff. But with Blaine, I was like all into metal and thrash and stuff like that, early 90s, and even started getting into some really heavy stuff like Sepultura and Obituary and, that really heavy metal in 1990. And then, of course, we find out that Pantera's first major label album dropped, Cowboys from Hell. And so I was totally into that. That's all I wanted to listen to. But from Blaine, he introduced me to stuff like Faith No More and Primus and more of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which of course I had heard of in the 80s. But I really wasn't into them. But he liked to listen to all that stuff. And he liked some of the same metal that I did too as well. So we really clicked musically. And I'd go over to his their house and I'd stop there on the way, or sometimes we'd just go and have dinner or whatever. And he'd be playing Sacred Reich, which is another metal band back then, or he had this one compilation CD, I guess, and it had all kind of cool bands on there, alternative. We both really liked the MTV 120 Minutes. We'd watch that a lot too. So those are some of the things I was into in 1990, in 91 even. Yeah, it kind of sucked when Blaine left and went to the States, APCS to Maryland. And, so I pretty much, I didn't do much skating, skateboarding after that. But did still work hard and hang out with my workmates and stuff. And then started going to that Cadillac place later on. So when I did first get there, backing up a bit, I got there in March of 1990, and what happened in August of 1990? And then Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and just basically tried to take it back over in the name of Iraq. So we were in the middle of what's called Desert Storm. Never been so busy at work in my entire life to this day, because we didn't have all the mechanized equipment we have now, and it was a lot of hard work. So we get put on 12-hour shifts, and of course I'm the night shift guy, so I had to supervise at night a lot, and it was just no kidding. For 12 hours you're working, you're breaking down cargo pallets, bringing them inside, separating them, sorting things out, and then also we had what's called pure pallets, which we had a whole mega list of those too. And what we would do is we pull those out and load them onto flatbed trucks, and then the Army would come in the morning and take them to where they needed to go. So super busy. Planes never stopped coming in the middle of the night, and it was a lot of hard work. People coming over and from the States and visit us. One was, my ex-wife's sister, and still keep in contact with her to this day. And she's over there and she stays with us for a while. And she's the one that told me about Nirvana for the first time. And I'm like, Nirvana? I was into the metal. I didn't want to hear anything about Nirvana and Teen Spirit and stuff. But anyway, I did start getting into that album, and then of course their next album, In Utero, was I thought was better, but all the hits are on their first album, which became classics. His name was Kiefer, and he was totally into the metal, and you're talking like 91, 92-ish. And he and I went to one of the greatest concerts that I've seen so far is Creator, which is a German band, and Sepultura and Morbid Angel, and they call it the Christmas Metal Fest. And he and I went to that in downtown Frankfurt. I think we took the train down there. That was awesome. And also, all my coworkers and people that work for me couldn't believe that I saw Pantera when they were a small club band, because here they were coming to Frankfurt, Germany. The album Vulgar Display of Power just dropped. And my bandmate back in Texas, Adam, he used to send me mixtapes all the time, so he would send me punk bands, and he was like, hey, this is Pantera's, one of their songs, and it was New Level. He says, the album hasn't even come out yet, but this is a demo of it. Whoa. So I don't know whatever happened to that tape, but he sent it to me, and I was like, damn. So then next thing you know, Frankfurt, Germany, Pantera headlining, and Biohazard was there as well as the opening act. And at that time, Phil had his shaved head, and I get as far as I can to the front, and I don't know, I mean, this was like, 2-3 years, and they had made it big and stuff, but I swear to God that he did recognize me from being at the Joe's Garage shows, and he reaches down and slaps my hand and stuff, and then I start to get a little closer, and next thing you know, some big-ass bouncer come and pushes me so hard in my chest, I went flying back, and that was back then, 1992. Great show, great concert, great times. I wouldn't just stay in Germany. I got to go back to the States a few times on leave, to Cincinnati and hang out with my brother and stuff. And one time I went back to Texas and saw some friends back there. So I remember one time when I did go hang out with my brother, and we go home. He's listening to this cassette tape in his car. I'm like, what band is this? And he's like, it's the Pixies, and it was the song UMass. I want to say that was like 92, maybe 91. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And at the time, I was mostly into the metal, but I was trying to broaden my horizons and get more into the alternative rock, as I was, getting close to being 30 years old at the time. So that was a band that I really, from the get-go, started liking a lot, and then later on went back and bought their older stuff. Say this, I'll just say, I was not home a lot, during that time, because I was working my 12-hour shifts, and then, of course, just like I was still kind of young, and so after work, hey, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, let's go get some breakfast and a beer, and so I did that. So, and that wasn't any kind of life for my family, really, for them to be just sitting there in Germany in a foreign country. I mean, my ex, she did get a job on base we had like a record/video store there. And, that kind of kept us entertained, when I wasn't working, is, watching a lot of DVD or videos and stuff, VHS tapes, not videos. But, so eventually I'll just put it like this. She just wanted to go back to the States. Really awesome experience being over in Europe. They had a place on base called Tickets and Tours, and they also had USO tours. And you basically paid a small amount, it wasn't that much. A lot cheaper than from the States, but you'd pay like $50 and you get to take a tour of German cities or German castles, or, Paris. You go at midnight and meet at the bus stop, and you ride all night, and you get to Paris like 5 or 6 in the morning, and then they tour you all over the place. And Switzerland, and got to go to Austria, and just all over the place. I remember my mom came over, and she had never been to Paris, always wanted to go. And me and her and my daughter went. That was awesome. And it was a good time.